Crypto Words. Salty Crypto back at it again. It's Wednesday, the 3rd of February, 2021. This is Microstrategy, and they had their Bitcoin for Corporations event that happened today, and it'll continue tomorrow as well on the 4th, Thursday. They had 1,400 corporations and institutions there taking part in this presentation on how MicroStrategy themselves invested in Bitcoin, used their corporate treasury to invest in Bitcoin. It was a big, broad, macro view of the world and what's currently taking place, and how Bitcoin can play a part in preserving your company's wealth. Now, if you have 1,400 companies from across the globe interested in getting into Bitcoin and preserving their treasury, their profits, their gains that they've made, protecting their cash on hand for the next 10, 20, 30 years, and Bitcoin is what they're going to use to protect that, why aren't you doing the same thing? Just a question I'm throwing out there, not financial advice. You could come here to MicroStrategy. Of course, this will be linked in the description below, and check out all the different videos and all the different speakers speaking on Bitcoin and its place in your in your bank, in your treasury, in a way for you to preserve your wealth. Tomorrow they'll have the Binance's, the Coinbase, basically the exchanges and other institutions where you can, us as well, because anyone can open a Coinbase or a Binance account, right? But the institutions where you can get involved and use them to protect your wealth and get into the crypto space, the vendors. Let's get into it. I'm using CoinMarketCap today, and the reason being is they have CoinMarketCap Earn. All right, learn crypto, earn crypto. You come here, you watch a few videos, answer a few questions, and you earn maybe a $5, $10 in certain cryptos. Can't go wrong with that. That $5 or $10 could be $100 in a year or two. All right, or you could just cash out right into Bitcoin, like I've done in the past. Actually, what I've done was converted it back into BNB, into Binance Coin. But here it is on CoinMarketCap. They still have Wall Street Bets as their number 0 coin or asset. All right, so everything's in the green pretty much in the past 24 hours, and it's mostly due to the MicroStrategy event that took place today. I'm going to go out there on a limb and call it what it is and say that yes, it's because of MicroStrategy and them pumping Bitcoin to these different institutions. We're going to see within the next few weeks the results of what happened. Now, is it going to be all 1,400 of these corporation institutions jumping into Bitcoin? Maybe not. Maybe about 10% of them will be getting into Bitcoin and putting their corporate treasury into Bitcoin. But we'll see that inflow, that institutional inflow happening over the next several weeks, in my opinion, of course. And we're seeing a big pump right now across the board in every crypto. We have Bitcoin up 6% of the day. Ethereum in price discovery mode right now, hitting all-time new highs, and it's just in price discovery mode right now. We're seeing it touch places it's never touched before. The same thing with Polkadot, all-time new highs right now, price discovery mode. XRP just won't die. It's in recovery mode right now and pumping over the past week, as you can see. Cardano, again, hitting new highs for within the last year or so. Litecoin pumping again. Chainlink up again. Bitcoin Cash, Binance Coin. Woo! Look at Binance Coin. My goodness, look at that. Awesome. We have Stellar and Uniswap. Everything is pretty much in price discovery mode because it's never touched these prices before. Damn, look at Aave. Crazy, 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 crazy. And Doge, again, up 15%. I definitely think we're just at the beginning right now. We are just at the beginning. Let's get into it. I'm going to be playing this video. Now, this person, Scott Minerd, right? He's the CIO, the Chief Investment Officer of Guggenheim, and I'm going to play it and pause it intermediate, at different spots, and give you my 2 cents on what is taking place here. This is coming from the YouTube channel Bitcoin. They blew up over the past few months, definitely. All right, so here it is.
What do you make of what we've seen in the last, particularly the last week or so?
Well, Julia, I got to tell you that everything that's going on here, I think, is a symptom of aggressive monetary policy globally and against the backdrop of more stimulus. So, when you start to see these kind of, and I refer to them as crazy moves in stocks, speculative bubble, that could go on for quite a while.
I was told last week that bubbles are a boomer mentality, Scott. That frightens me.
Well, it's certainly I can't argue with that. I think one of the things about bubbles is that they often go on longer than people expect, and they often go to extremes much higher than people would expect.
Yeah, and if people don't expect the bubbles to pop, they keep buying. Is it the role, and to your point about the fact that you would normally, in normal times, and this clearly isn't, and actually we haven't been in normal times for more than a decade, central bankers would take that punch bowl away, or at least they'd try and reduce the amount of liquid or liquidity in there. But we're not seeing that. Do you think there's a role for regulators in what we're seeing, whether it's making sure that margin requirements are there, whether they have cooling off periods in individual stock names that get lofty? We've also got the angle here of the social media driven frenzy in certain names too. I do think there's a lot perhaps to investigate, even if they take no action ultimately.
Well, I think there is a lot to be looked into here, Julia. I mean, first off, to just go back to margin requirements, at least in our country, in the United States, that's the business of the central bank, of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve hasn't changed margin requirements in over 20 years. They seem hesitant to want to do it because I think they're afraid they'll get blamed for something, like, somehow hurting the small guy.
You mean exactly what's happened here?
Very condescending when he's like saying hurting the small guy. It is not the responsibility. Well, they wrote it in, so because they meaning the central bank, the Federal Reserve, is not just in my opinion, it's not responsibility of the central bank to interfere with markets, right? But they have been interfering with markets since their existence. When this country was founded, one of the big thing was they didn't want bankers to be involved in creating money. All right, the founders didn't want bankers to be involved in creating the money. And before I go off on this deep tangent on, the founders and them hating bankers and things of that nature, we gotta remember the Federal Reserve wasn't a thing until 1913, and it was formed in secrecy, and they came up with the idea of naming it the Federal Reserve. Because it would trick people into thinking that it has something to do with the federal government, which it does not. The Federal Reserve being afraid to intervene is partly because, yes, they don't want to get blamed for it, but they already intervened. They've been printing money continuously, right? And since last year, in the year 2020, they've printed 25% of all of the money that's ever been printed since the Federal Reserve was founded in 1913. They printed 25% of that money in 1 year, in 2020. Think about that.
What's going on right now with a lot of these bubbles or stocks or squeezes or shorts, however you want to talk about it, you find that there's a lack of sophistication by the players. And there's two things that are disturbing. If we take the GameStop episode, professional investors who are shorting a stock that has where the short is 130% of its total float is just sounds kind of stupid to me. Nevertheless, when you turn it around and you get these retail investors in who have very little experience and they can squeeze the short, of course they can make a lot of money. But now they translate that into, well, let's go after silver. Well, silver's a different beast. I mean, the market cap of silver is huge compared to what the market cap of GameStop was prior to taking on the shorts.
Yeah, and I mentioned that at the top of my show. This is an entirely different beast. The fundamentals, the size of this market, when you're looking at shorts or longs globally, you have to look at the picture and not just...
Yeah, they're correct in saying that the silver market is different than, say, just one company, GameStop, as far as market cap is concerned. However, because it is global, right? Although it is global, it is still being manipulated. And if these Wall Street bet guys could get basically the world in on it and start to request physically delivered silver instead of trying to trade paper silver with the futures. If they get physically delivered silver and start purchasing real silver, they can pull another one and get a short squeeze in on these hedge funds that are short in silver, because then we'll see the price of silver spike. All right, when they were even saying, I've been to these Reddit forums on Wall Street Bet, when they were saying that basically it's the real spot price for silver should be $1,000. That's insane. Think about that. $1,000 spot price for silver when right now it's being traded at like $25. Imagine what the real spot price for gold should be. All right, and this is why Bitcoin exists.
Where do you see it ending?
Well, we'll end eventually. The old line is, this will end in tears. Eventually, a lot of the people who have
end in tears. Tears for who? Like, don't stop trying to protect the quote unquote retail investor. We don't need protecting. People know what they're doing. They understand the risks. They don't need protection.
Are going to discover that they can't get out of their positions and the market just gaps lower on them, and they're going to lose a lot.
A lot of these dudes aren't doing it for the money. They're doing it for the principle of it. A lot of them are just doing it for the principle of it. A lot of these Wall Street bet guys are people that were affected by the 2008 crisis, when bankers were bailed out and their parents lost their homes, their parents lost their businesses, and no one came to help them out. So this is a revenge tactic for them. Listen to an interview the other day where one of the guys on this whole Wall Street bet GameStop thing had over $1 million in profits, and he wasn't taking anything. Him and his dad was in on it. They're like, yo, we're going to hold this and ride this thing till the wheel falls off, because his dad lost his business. All right, and this is a good way for them to get revenge on those hedge funds that basically got bailed out in 2008 and got their bonuses, that got taxpayers to pay those bonuses, and people lost their homes. That him in particular, that particular person lost his home. All right, he was only a kid at the time, right? And his dad lost his business and they lost their home, and they had to move from the United States to China because his dad wasn't able to get a job here because of everything that happened back then. So he's riding it till the wheel falls off, or till GameStop stock, right, per share hits $5,000. And he's like, yo, that's the only way he's cashing out, if it hits $5,000. So there you have it. All right, so
money. Of course, that will be another event that leads to regulators wanting to take a hard look at what's going on here. But as I mentioned earlier, Julia, I still think we're fairly early in this game. And, this liquidity bubble certainly could go on well until the end of the first quarter, and perhaps, maybe even into next year.
Where does that leave Bitcoin, Scott? And do you see this as part of the same thing? Because the speculative frenzy, as you called it right at the beginning of this interview, sort of began with the dramatic rally that we saw in Bitcoin, and it sort of moved on to other assets and individual stock names, as we've mentioned. Is Bitcoin part of this, and what are your views on that at this moment?
Well, it's very interesting, Julia, because we've been looking at Bitcoin for almost 10 years, and the size of the market just wasn't big enough to justify institutional money. As the total market cap of Bitcoin got bigger, around 10,000, it started to look very interesting. My view is, we did a lot of fundamental research. And if you consider the supply of Bitcoin relative, let's say, to the supply of gold in the world, and what the total value of gold is, if Bitcoin were to go to those kinds of numbers, you'd be talking about $400,000 to $600,000 per Bitcoin. Now, that I'm not saying we'll ultimately get there, but that's an indication of what might be a measure of fair value. That gives you a lot of room to run. But then when you consider that within a course of a month, we went from 20,000 to 40,000 on Bitcoin. That smacks of short-term speculation. And so I agree with you. The speculation sort of got started there. Now the air's coming out of that speculative run, and so the money is migrating into other places. And as I indicated recently, I don't really see the institutional support today, which is just coming online from the likes of people like BlackRock and Guggenheim. And
all right, he's a straight up bullshit lying ass piece of garbage. All right, let's break it down. If he was looking at Bitcoin 10 years ago, remember, this is the chief investment officer for Guggenheim. Look them up. They even have a museum in the city named after them. All right, look them up. Now, he's saying he was looking at Bitcoin 10 years ago. Let's have a quick peek at where Bitcoin sat 10 years ago. This is to show you how they weren't doing their quote-unquote fundamental research, right? Because if they were looking at Bitcoin 10 years ago, we're seeing all here. What year is it right now? It's 2021. Let's go back as far back as CoinMarketCap will take us. CoinMarketCap only takes us back to 2013. 10 years ago puts us at 2011. Bitcoin was $1 10 years ago. You mean to tell me you knew about this asset class and didn't even decide to try to get a little taste, a little piece of it from 10 years ago? How smart are you as a chief investment officer, right? The CIO. What are you doing? How did you miss this? Even if you started back in 2013, on May 1st, 2013, when Bitcoin was sitting at $115, the claim that, it wasn't big enough yet, but when it hit $10,000, it started to look interesting. At what point was it, are you talking about? What $10,000 point, right? What point were you talking about? Let's see. Were you talking about back when it was $10,000 in 2017? So we are right here. We'll call it November. Yeah, November, December of 2017. Were you talking about that $10,000 point? Or were you talking about a $10,000 point in 2019? Or the $10,000 point in 2020? Like, what are we talking about here? You're sitting there and you're telling this lady on CNN that, yeah, we were looking at Bitcoin since 10 years ago, but it wasn't big enough yet. So you waited until everybody else made massive amounts of gains before you decided to take a portion of our of our cash, cash available to invest in this asset class. So you're a follower, not a leader. I'm a Marine, right? We don't follow. We lead from the front. This is what they teach you in the Marine Corps. All right? To not be a follower, to be a leader, to be innovative, to think outside the box. But yet you're getting paid all this big bucks to be a follower? Give me a break, dude. Give me a friggin' break, all right? Because you're saying you've waited until Bitcoin was up millions of percent before you decided to get in. When now we could only go, I say only, but we could only go 10, 20x from here, by your standards, because you're saying it's going to hit 400 to 600k. So that, if we're calling that a 40k Bitcoins, that's a 10x from here, 600k. So we're looking at maybe a 12, 15x. I'm just like doing numbers in my head here real quick. So a 10 to 15x from here. In the meantime, we could have done a million x from the time you were looking at it back in 2011, supposedly. You're saying that you weren't smart enough to invest in it, or that you're just a follower and you waited for somebody else to invest in it first to get in on the game because you're too scared. You don't need to be a CIO anymore. You need to get fired because you missed out on all that potential gains from 2011. You missed out on it. All right. We're not saying that you had to invest 10% like you're doing now, because right now the Guggenheim, they got the all clear from the SEC to invest 10% of their funds into Bitcoin, which is $500 million. All right. They have $5 billion in assets to, in funds to invest. They invest 10% of that into Bitcoin. Imagine if you had invested 10% back in 2011. It'll be your whole fund right now. That's crazy. So you're either a liar or an idiot. Either way, we don't need you to be working for us. That's the way how I would see it. And I would be firing this dude right now. But I'm going to get off my high horse. And you guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is he straight up lying? Is this whole thing just, a bubble? Because he was saying that this run up from 20K to 40K within a month's time was bubble and speculative and all these other words, right, that he's throwing out there. And he was trying to, I'm telling you, he's trying to FUD the market. FUD the market. This way they could get in because he wasn't allowed to get in yet. He went on CNN, said, hey, it's going to be a $400,000 asset one day. Then a few weeks later, he comes out, oh, no, it's too speculative. We shouldn't be getting it right now. All right, FUD in the market to try to get it at a lower price. But yet, right now, we see that they got the all clear, and now they invested $500 million into Bitcoin through GrayScale. Okay, and they're still paying a premium because they're getting it through GrayScale. Instead of just going directly in and getting the underlying asset straight up, he's going through GrayScale still. So he still doesn't know what's going on. Because he's paying a 2.5% premium to get it through GrayScale. I'm get off my high horse, and you guys discuss it in the comment section below. Watch out for the scammers in the comment section below. Smash that like, hit that subscribe button, and notification bell to know when I upload new videos. It's Sergeant Crypto. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that share button. It's Sergeant Crypto, and I'm out. Peace.